And welcome back to another episode of the Skinny Post, your Eagles post game show. I'm Joe Stazak, keeping you and your team accountable each and every week. We've got plenty to talk about with the Birds this week. The Eagles are 2-0, coming off that gritty Super Bowl rematch, although I still wouldn't really go there in Kansas City. But the national conversation seems stuck on the tush-push, and Jordan Mailata isn't having it. He called the criticism absolutely rubbish and made it clear that the defense and special teams deserve way more credit. I posted an article on my Substack, my new Substack, Winging It. Please subscribe. It is free for now. I've also defended the Eagles offense week in and week out, just talking about how it's most important to survive and advance, but I've kind of reached my limit too with how anemic it's been. We'll get into that a little bit more with a special guest we have coming up pretty soon. And again, I'm not going to go there. Not a rematch of last year's divisional round against the Rams, but the Rams are in town this weekend and they have a defender who is really hard to stop. No sacks so far this year, but still a lot of quarterback pressures. And he's still one of the elite pass rushers in the game, second year guy out of Florida State. Almost single-handedly ended the Eagles' Super Bowl run last year. Jared Verse from Florida State had 2 sacks, 4 hurries, 3 tackles for loss in that game. He was all over the place. So we'll see how the Eagles handle that this weekend. Eagles are a 3.5 point favorite. Rams 9-2 in their last 11, but both losses have been to your Eagles. Saquon Barkley having 255 yards rushing against the Rams in November, and he also busted 2 big home run balls in that divisional round game, a game which, again, came right down to the wire. So, without further ado, my man, he is legendary sports talk host in this city and former colleague of mine. I don't think Liz is joining him today, but Johnny Marks is. How you doing, Johnny Marks?
What's up, Joe? How are you?
Hey, pal. How are you, man?
Good, good, good,
Yeah,
good.
good. You look good. You sound good. I liked your post yesterday talking about the PTSD. 'Cause I was thinking of kind of the same thing. I know what people are thinking, like, all right, well, this is kind of 2003. They went started 10-1, and the games they were winning, but it was like, yes, but, and that's kind of, I think, the way some people feel maybe right now. And then you said, well, the lecture was that the cure, the medicine was they won a Super Bowl. They won a
Right.
Super Bowl last year, which is absolutely also what I've been saying because they started out poorly last year. They were 2-2 after that awful loss to Tampa Bay, and even not a great performance against Cleveland. And then they just got better and better as the year went along. What are you thinking so far? I mean, I think stacking the wins in games that they needed to win, and they didn't come out and play that well against Dallas in the first half. They, lost their star defender and lost a guy for the year without a snap being taken, and then they came back, won that game, and they won in Kansas City, which is never an easy place to play. 2-0 heading into the Rams game. Your thoughts so far on the team?
Yeah, I have no reason to be negative. I have no reason to say anything other than 2 impressive wins to start the season. The Cowboys came out and they were throwing haymakers. They came out, they heard everybody saying the season was over. You
Right.
traded Micah Parsons, you have no
Sure.
chance to win. That's still a very good offense. The Eagles went punch for punch with them in the first half, and then that weather delay happened, and like the second half was kind of like like you forget even what happened in it.
Yeah. Right.
But like, who knows what happens if the weather delay doesn't happen? Bottom line is they got to win. That's what's important. And then, like, I don't think the Chiefs are the same team that we saw even last year. Maybe the Eagles came up with almost like the template on how to beat them or whatever, but they've been a defensively led team the last couple of years the Chiefs had, and they still have a very good defense. But the fact that you were able to get a win on the road against a team that didn't want to fall to 0-2, against a quarterback that has never lost 3 games in a row, I think it's impressive, Joe. And I never watched in watching that game on Sunday. I can't speak for anybody else, but I've heard a lot of people have said this to me. They agreed with me. I never at one point felt like the Eagles were going to lose that game. They went up by 2 possessions, and you felt great about it. The Chiefs had that touchdown, but even then, I was like, you know what? Like, not that they're toying with them, but it just feels like that they know what they have to do to get the win. And if that means that they have to run the ball for 4 yards a pop and then do a tush push to get the first down and move the chains and get a field goal, it's like whatever they need to do to win, they don't care if it's flashy. They don't really care about anything else. They're doing it. And until I see them not be able to do that anymore, the Eagles play with almost an arrogance about them to where they know if they get to a 3rd and 2, they have 2 chances to get a first down. And until they outlaw or they maybe properly officiate the tush push, it's very difficult to stop them. I feel great. I do. I'm happy with where they are so far, and until I see otherwise, there's no reason for me to believe there's any reason for alarm.
Let's talk a little bit about the tush push because I think some people, for some reason, it blew up. Maybe because it was used so many times in the Chiefs game. I mean, I've seen reports that it was 7 times, 5 of 7, 6 times, 4 of 6. Listen, the offensive line has the advantage. I see Lane Johnson do it almost every play outside the tush push. He gets a little bit of a jump. It's like saying the interference, outlawing interference, because what's the ref's job to call it? All right, so figure it out. I mean, it's not the Eagles' fault they're getting a little bit of a jump. Defense often lines up in the neutral zone. So how come all of a sudden, after 4 years, now this is a thing? And what do you think of Dean Blandino? He's a guy who's supposed to be kind of just there. His job description is to talk about the rules and everything. He goes, "I'm done with the tush push." He kind of almost started the whole ball rolling because that was the whole narrative, or a lot of the narrative, the next day on a lot of the
Oh
national
God.
talk shows.
Oh God. Yeah. Poor Dean Blandino having to deal with the tush push. Yeah, Joe, it's crazy. For how many years now has the tush push been the most talked about thing in football? I mean, think about that. Everyone wants to say it's so boring and it's rugby. Then stop talking about it. No one can stop talking about it. Now, I think in the Chiefs game, because you saw blatant false start penalties, and by the way, the Chiefs were also lined up in the neutral zone that wasn't called
Right.
numerous times as well. It goes both ways. I get a kick out of the reaction yesterday or on Monday where you see a lot of people and it's like, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Like I agree with that. It can't be officiated. It's like, oh, it's bad for the game. The officials couldn't possibly officiate the tush push. It's too difficult. And a lot of that's what Dean Blandino was saying. What is so difficult about being able to see if an offensive lineman is
Jumps.
starting before it? Yeah, he jumps.
Right.
That shouldn't be difficult. If a defensive player is lined up in the neutral zone, everybody's overreacting, and here's why: they can't stop the Eagles from
Can't
doing
stop
it.
it.
They can't stop it, and it's. I think people that say it's boring, you don't talk about something that's boring over and over and over again. You talk about something that's intriguing and interesting over and over again.
Right.
And a simple, stupid, dumb play like an assisted quarterback sneak is the most intriguing play in football right now. And I don't think that's a bad thing. That's the other thing. For everybody, it's like, oh, this is bad for football. It slows down the pace of play. It's like people have a card and they're going to use these canned responses for every reason why the tush push is bad for football. But they can't settle on one. It was, oh well, there's their injury factor, but there's no injuries. There's no data
Right.
that supports injuries.
None. Try
So
again.
yeah, and they'll probably ban it. I'd be like, you know what? If you want to use replay assist to determine whether something's a false start or not, fine. Like I don't think they can do that right now, but fine. Like if you just officiate it, it's your job to officiate it. It's not that difficult to officiate it. Shut up, shut up. It's annoying.
I've seen it. Look, it's worked against them at times. If you remember, speaking of the Rams, last year's Rams game, the Eagles had a tush push at the half-yard line, and if they score there, the game's over. All right, the Rams are not within. I think they're within three scores at that point. Lane Johnson gets called for a flinch. Move it back 5, they end up kicking a field goal. So like it has been called before, and then it made the game close, and they almost lost the game because of it. So I've seen it called before in the Eagles many times. I don't know why all of a sudden it's come to the fore so much, but I thought Jordan Mailata, he was on WIP yesterday, and he seemed like it might be he's repeating the message from the coach because he thought the fact that people were talking about the tush push as the reason the Eagles won the game, you're forgetting about the defense making a big stand. I know Travis Kelce, kind of dropped the ball, but Makuba was there to make the play, runs it back to the 41. They end up scoring on that play, and special teams I thought was great. The punter's been fantastic, and Jake Elliott, he was 1 for 7 on 50 yarders last year. He's 3 for 3 this year, including 2 big ones. Even when they moved it back 5 yards at the end of the half, he hits one from 58. So I think a lot of credit should go elsewhere.
Yeah, if and I challenge anybody that watches watches everything in the NFL to tell me who the better team is after 2 weeks.
Right.
Eagles won
Oh,
the Super
right.
Eagles won the Super Bowl. I mean, all right, maybe you can make a case it's enough. I don't know. Like I look at the Eagles, I'm like, yeah, they're the best team in the NFL, and that doesn't matter after 2 weeks. But being that they just won the Super Bowl and they're coming back perhaps with a better roster, or certainly a similar roster to last year, I don't. This is when it's all said and done, Joe. If they're not playing in the NFC Championship game to go back to the Super Bowl, I will be absolutely positively surprised, unless there's an injury to Jalen Hurts or something like
Right.
that.
Major injury.
Yeah, yeah.
The Rams coming in 3.5 point dogs, which is interesting. They're 2-0. They haven't blown out anybody. In fact, they're 9-2 in their last 11, both losses to the Eagles, and they haven't seemed to, even after he puts up 255 and those big touchdowns in November, he killed them for a couple home runs in the divisional round. Um, Sacked Jalen Hurts 7 times last year, and Jared Verse was all over the place. Doesn't have a sack this year, but still is rated very highly among pass rushers. Felski is injured, but he's going to play as well. There's guys from Florida State. What concerns do you have coming into this week against the Rams team? And again, I don't know how much to make of a revenge or rematch. That usually ends after 5 minutes when you get knocked in the mouth and, you're just thinking about football after that. But Matthew Stafford's playing ball. I mean, he had that back injury and he's slinging it again. And here they are again. What are your thoughts on this week?
You brought up the point spread to start it. It's a little bit of a light line, 3.5 points, being that the Eagles are home. Coming off like a, I don't like did the Chiefs Eagles game really even seem like a big deal to the Eagles? You would have thought
Not
after
as much, no.
right? Like you
Right.
would have thought going into the week, it would have been a revenge game for the Chiefs. They got blown out in the Super Bowl. Now the Eagles are coming to Arrowhead, and like the Eagles just kind of came in and played a game like any other
It's
game,
a
and the
game.
Chiefs. And the Chiefs didn't really have any juice. It's like, I didn't, the Eagles were favored in the game, right? So I didn't feel like the Chiefs were going into that game to me, it didn't feel like that they were
Didn't feel
trending
like a
towards,
fire like today where there was a fire in the belly.
it didn't. Now, revenge, um, you know, the Chiefs didn't have revenge. Is there revenge this week? I remember hearing, I remember hearing a number of Rams and Sean McVay in interviews, either at the Super Bowl, shortly after the season ended, et cetera. And they were still talking about how bent they were about that loss. They were
They
bent.
they were. I did hear McVay in an interview with Mike Florio. He was
Yes,
still lamenting into the owners' meetings.
still mad. And you look at that defense, and I think it becomes matchups now. Their defense gets after the quarterback. You mentioned the 7 sacks in the playoffs last year. Very fast, athletic defensive line. And honestly, kind of, I don't want to say the Eagles are sputtering on offense because I see them being more methodical and not wanting to take chances and turn the ball over, knowing, hey, we're going to beat you, so we're not going to take chances. A lot like they played last year.
Yeah.
But still, like the offense isn't clicking. It doesn't seem like the pass offense is clicking. And if you look at what the Rams do very well on offense, first of all, McVay is the king of scheming guys open. He's an offensive wizard. We know that. But I'm a little bit worried about the secondary. Puka Nacua is legit. It,
Legit.
he's unbelievable. I love him. Devontae Adams he's your second wide receiver. That's very strong. And they have some other guys there. I know they have a young tight end that I saw making a play in the game. So when you talk about things that you're concerned about early on in this Eagle season, and I thought that losing Darius Slay, I understood why, because the Steelers paid a premium price to get him.
Sure.
But they had hoped that Ringo was going to take the job. They had hoped that one of the other young guys, they had hoped that Dory Jackson was going to be there in case that they faltered. They have a real hole at cornerback. So I do worry about the matchups. The Rams passing offense against the Eagles passing defense. That would be a concern. I think this is a very close game, and I'm much more concerned that this would be an Eagles loss than I was the first 2 weeks of the season, for
I
sure.
I tend to agree with that. Now, about the offense, because I've defended them for the conservative play, because I think a lot of times it's not who makes the bigger plays in the game, it's who makes the fewest mistakes, and cutting back on the turnovers after that the infamous bye and they cut Jalen's passes down from 33 to like 21, and he doesn't turn the ball over anymore. He had like a meaningless one against Dallas last year, and then he had one in the Super Bowl in the first quarter that didn't matter too much. It seems though it's pretty conservative, when you have a guy like AJ Brown and Devontae Smith. I think the concern people have is how long until AJ kind of blows up. Like he's been good. He's been good. He's been real good. Remember the Carolina game, and then the next week against Pittsburgh. All right, and Jalen comes back. All right, is that what you wanted to see? Because then they showed that they can
Yeah.
have the passing game. What is going on with the passing game? Because you look at you look at Jamar Chase. He had 14 catches, and Joe Burrow was out at halftime. You look at Russ Wilson threw for half 1,000 yards against the Dallas defense. That the Eagles threw for like a buck 52. Like, are they really just reining it in? Is it Kevin Patullo, or is it Jalen just? Or does that come from Nick Sirianni saying, we can win this, like you said, we can win this game playing very conservative, so let's just keep doing what we're doing.
Yeah, I went and I looked at the play-by-play because I remember watching it in real time. It was 3rd and 15, and the Eagles were up 7-3 first half. And I was like, they're going to run a draw play here. And sure as hell, they
They
ran a draw
did.
play to Saquon
To
Barkley, and they
Saquon.
punted. Now, the Chiefs got the ball and scored a touchdown, so it didn't necessarily work out being conservative, but it just shows you that they're saying 3rd and 15, a lot of things can happen. We drop back trying to throw the ball down the field. Jalen gets sacked. There's a fumble. They are comfortable playing conservatively because they trust their defense at this point. I wouldn't expect that to change. Now, as far as the offensive coordinator in Patullo, I know everybody's having a fit because it looks like a very ordinary, vanilla, almost high school offense that they're running. It is. Now, is that by design? I do. I do think it's by
I think it
design.
is too.
Yeah, like they were at their best last year when they were running the football, controlling the clock, not making turnovers. You mentioned it. They changed what they did with their offense after that bye week. They said, we're not going to throw the ball 30 sometimes a game. We're going to throw it. And they were throwing, Jalen was throwing the ball like 18, 19, 20 times a game in a lot of those games.
Yep.
So, and the other thing with Patullo, Joe, is that we have to remember he's never called plays before.
Right.
This is his first
Big
two
difference.
games.
Big difference.
Right. Even Kellen Moore last year, when you look at what Kellen Moore did, it took Kellen Moore a couple of weeks to say, like, all right, like, what do I got here and what am I going to do? And he slowed down throwing the ball after the first quarter, after the first third of the season. They changed what they were doing on offense to fit the personnel that they have. So you got to give Patullo a little bit of time to kind of get cozy in that play calling role, because that, just like Kellen Moore needed a little bit of time to get going as the play caller, like Kevin Patullo is going to need the same thing. So I had somebody tweet me that, I had said the same, just what I said right there, which is like, yeah, Kellen Moore wasn't great to start the season last year either. And
Yeah.
everybody was having a fit about it, and he was okay at the end. And the guy actually said Kellen Moore was awful last year as the offensive coordinator, but he also had a lot of injuries. The Eagles won the 14 regular season games and won a Super Bowl, right? Like, so he was an awful offensive coordinator. I think sometimes, and I'm just as guilty about it as anybody. Like, sometimes we got to take a step back and realize this is the best Eagles football that we've ever seen,
Ever seen.
ever in our life,
Ever.
ever in my grandfather's lifetime. So when you win 14 games and you win a Super Bowl, I think they deserve a little bit of a benefit of the doubt, especially considering they're 2-0 and they had to beat the Cowboys and the Chiefs on the first 2 weeks of the season. So take a breath, everybody.
That's
It's gonna be okay.
that's pretty impressive. And when Jalen starts and finishes a game, I think they've won 16 straight. That's ridiculous. That's like a whole, 17 games now, but other than, before, that's like a full season.
18
It's
and 1 in their last 19 games. I mean, see, like, here's the thing. The NFL in 2025, you're supposed to be throwing the ball all over the place. It's supposed to be flashy, and the Eagles have bucked that trend. And I didn't think that you can play defense and run the football to win championships in the modern day NFL. And at some point last year, I had said they can win a championship playing like this, and they did. So they may not be winning the way that national analysts want Jalen to play, or how maybe some local people want the offense to look. They're 18 and 1 in their last 19 games, dude. Like, I don't know what else to say, man.
and they're not turning the ball over. Look, you look at the two
Yes.
games that they won. Okay. Blake Ferguson drops a pass in the end zone, and then Miles Sanders fumbles. Okay, it happens. Eagles dropped two passes last year, or they would
Yep.
have lost one game. Saquon in the Atlanta game, Devontae in the It happens. It evens out. Or Travis Kelce, another turnover. They've won both turnover games, and I always talk about how turnovers are so important to the big swing and the big equalizer. Last year in the playoffs, they were plus 11 in four games. I mean, not turning, it's like the formula. Like, you might not be great to watch. Sometimes it's not exactly exciting TV, but they win doing it. Jalen Hurts, the passing game with the two sacks for minus 94 yards passing, 4-0 in games under 100 yards since last year. It's unheard of. They find ways to win, which is a credit to Sirianni. I mean, how much credit does I backed him because his record's ridiculous and they just keep winning. I can't criticize the guy. How much credit do you give to the head coach?
A lot of it. I mean, yeah, a lot of it. Sure. And you hear this, you still hear this to this day nationally. Whatever he's doing is working. And
Right.
and I know they have a lot of talent on their team, but are they really utilizing that talent with the talent that they have at wide receiver with the way that they're playing offense? I mean, I don't know. How do you not give the guy credit? And I've heard some people say like, look at all that talent that he has. What coach in the NFL doesn't win with talent? Who's the
Right.
last Super Bowl winner that like, oh well, they
Didn't
didn't have a
have
lot of
talent.
talent.
Right.
But like, come on, I get it. The NFL X's and O's. It's the most important sport as far as the head coach. He has the most control over what can happen during a game.
Sure.
But what Nick Sirianni controls, which is the locker room, which is getting his players ready to play, which is the relationships with the players. And by the way, this isn't talked about enough. How many times, and we've seen Andy Reid do this his entire Eagles career, how many times have you been out of timeouts at the end of a half because they couldn't get the play in fast enough, or you're like, damn, what terrible clock management by Nick Sirianni. Like, how do you not have a play in there, right? You never see that. There's never
Never.
bad reviews. That was a
Never.
touch. He challenged it. That was a touchdown on the Tush-push. He challenged it. I thought he should have. He manages the game well, and he manages his team very well. So I'm not trying to pretend he's Sean McVay and he's not an offensive guru, and that's not what he is. You don't need him to be that. You don't need him to be that. He deserves as much credit as anybody else in this organization.
Saquon Barkley, I thought played very well the other day. He didn't get 100 yards, and he hasn't had one of those 60-yard runs. And I think he actually looks leaner and faster. But people are questioning why isn't he? Well, obviously he's got a bullseye, and teams really scheme for him now. But what are your thoughts on getting him going like he was a little bit last year? You're probably not going to see a 2,000-yard season, but some of those bursts we haven't seen yet this year.
Yeah, I don't know if it was Burkhardt or Tom Brady that said a sneaky game for Saquon Barkley because he had 80 yards or so at that point, and I did think it was a really good game, and I appreciate the fact that the Eagles kept going back to him even though they were only getting 4 yards a pop.
Hmm.
If you go and you look and it's you can Google it and you can see players that get used as much as Saquon Barkley did last year with the carries and the yards. We're not even counting the postseason. They won a
He had
Super Bowl.
482 touches, including the postseason. Second most ever.
It's unbelievable. Running backs the following year never. Yeah, it goes down 600 yards at least. So
Yes.
even if Saquon Barkley runs for 1,400 yards, it's a hell of a season.
That's a hell of a
Yeah.
season.
Now you're going to have to make up for those yards in other places, the passing game, and we haven't seen that happen in the passing game. But as long as he can stay healthy, and this has been a problem throughout his career, and knock on wood, he didn't get hurt last year, or he didn't miss games last year. But yeah, like you can tell this offense is going to continue to run through Saquon Barkley, and I was very happy that they didn't say run's not working. We're not getting big plays. We're going to start throwing the ball, because that's what you see in the NFL.
Like
Oh, we're
Andy
only
used to
getting,
do.
yeah,
Andy used to do.
all the time, all the time. So, like, yeah, I think the difference with what we saw this year and last year was you had said it. We're not getting the big run. They'll come, but we haven't gotten one yet.
I agree. Vic Fangio, never at a loss for words, said Jalen Carter needs to get in better shape. What did you think of that?
it it it's great that he'll say it because it's true, and he has these guys motivated. And like you think about all the additions we talk about, signing Saquon Barkley, bringing in this guy, bringing in that guy. Fangio, if Barkley's the best move they made, Fangio might be the second best move.
I agree.
He is spectacular.
Spectacular.
And his guys play for him. You know the scheme's going to be there. You know he can make adjustments and he can stop the bleeding when it needs to happen. But as Jalen Carter and these young Eagles go, this team goes, right? So if Carter, who everybody on the team is going to be looking at, and questions about him coming out of Georgia, where like is he 100% motivated? Like his coaches, there were a lot of his former coaches like off the record that were talking about him poorly and whatever. All of those things are like you can't have Jalen Carter win the Super Bowl and everybody's saying how he's one of the best defensive players in the league, and then he's out of shape and he's not the same player, right? So I mean, so how do you stop that? You need a coach that's a father figure that isn't afraid to be the bad guy and to call him out. And I'm glad that Fangio said it.
Like Moses Malone told Barkley he was a fat slob, and he got his gaming gear after that.
He
The
sure did.
Packers, people are, again, it's overreaction after the first week, and I know they smacked Detroit around, then Detroit goes and pops for 50. It's a week to week thing in the NFL, but
Yes.
and I need to see Jordan Love do it in the playoffs. He had one playoff game, made a lot of money, fine. Didn't turn the ball over too much last year until the playoff game where he threw three picks. But he's played well, and the Packers have played well, and they seem to get a boost from Micah Parsons. And where do you put them in terms of the NFC hierarchy? And if are they the team the Eagles might need to go through to get back to the Super Bowl?
Yeah, through 2 weeks, I mean, the biggest standout team would be the Packers if you're just asking any particular NFL analyst because they have won in impressive fashion. For me, their defense is very, very good. That's what stands out to me. I think Jordan Love has played kind of the way Jordan Love played. I agree with you. It's a lot different in January when you're on the road or you're hosting an NFC championship game or whatever. And now it's like, okay, now you can't just say, oh, your defense is going to come up big. No, now you got to make a couple of
Got to
plays.
make some plays.
So their wide receivers constantly are injured. Christian Watson, I know, is injured again. They lost the other young
Well, James
receiver.
Snead,
Yeah.
he's out
Yep.
most of the year.
Yep. So they have a couple of good tight ends. They're a good team. I like the head coach.
Head coach is
Uh,
great.
yeah, they're a very good team. They absolutely like. I believe Detroit is still right up there with anybody in the NFC. The Packers are up there with anybody in the NFC. The Eagles. The West seems like more of a mess than anything right
A little
now.
bit, yeah.
The Rams are good, but Stafford's health and age and things like that. I don't know what he's going to look like at the end of the season.
Right.
And like that's it. I mean, that's really what you're talking about because the East, Washington doesn't look like the same team this year. So yeah, I mean, you would figure unless something happens with the Packers, and I don't expect them that they'll be one of the teams that we're talking about come January.
I agree. Johnny, it's always good talking to you. I love talking birds with you. I love listening to your thoughts. I'm going to put you on the spot here. I have some decent sources that tell me you might be making your return to Sports Talk Radio at some point soon. Can you confirm, deny, or should I just stop talking?
Dude, everybody keeps telling me that the Fanatic wants to hire me. I can't confirm or deny these. I guess we're just gonna have to wait to see if that's the case because it's not the case right now. But that's the hot and heavy rumor right now.
That is the hot and heavy rumor. Okay. We'll see how good
Uh,
my sources are
we'll
coming up.
see. We'll see.
Good luck to you, pal. Appreciate you joining the Skinny Post, man. We'll talk to you soon.
Love you, Joe. Talk to you
Love you
soon.
too, buddy. Take care, Johnny. Johnny Marks, my man, legendary sports talk radio guy. I worked with him at 97.5 The Fanatic. He was the WIP guy, and that's the hot rumor that Johnny's coming back to 97.5. I hope that's the case. I started out with Johnny back then. He was tremendous with Sean Brace, and he does a great job, and he's always making himself available to come on the Skinny Post. So that's going to do it from here, folks. You can catch us on Substack. Please subscribe. It's free for now. And again, Rams, Eagles this weekend. I'll have more stuff every day on my new Substack, Winging It. And of course, the Skinny Post. I will post on all the social medias as well as the Substack, the new Substack as well. So, and I also, if you want to check out my stuff on heavy.com, I do a game day pregame rant, post-game rant as well as cover the team during the week. That's heavy.com, heavyoneagles.com. Appreciate you joining us, folks. Have a great week, and we'll talk to you soon.